Does it look different for you inside and outside of fight camp? I assume intensity goes up inside of fight camp, but I mean, as far as day to day, week to week, are you doing anything different inside of fight camp versus outside of it?
Not really. It's about the same because we got guys constantly at Factor X with fights coming up, and I was Derek Brunson for Ian's fight.
Okay, yeah, I saw you with the Photoshop.
Yeah. It's like whoever's fighting a black dude, I'm the guy. Who,
okay.
So that was actually a really good experience because it gave me an opportunity to really work my southpaw.
Yeah.
Not saying I'm going to use it or not. I'm not going to give up my secrets for this fight, but that really helped my southpaw, and honestly, it helps your orthodox because switching stances, you learn, you continue to learn.
Absolutely.
Throwing an uppercut with your left hand it's a weird feeling, compared when you switch it up. So that was just a good opportunity. He also had me in the corner for the UFC Anaheim. Cool. We didn't get the win, but it was just a good experience for both of us.
Yeah, actually, now I think about it, I think I saw you do the walkout with him and everything, right, behind him.
That's another thing.
Cool.
It kind of gives you that perspective, and that was the biggest fight card of the year.
Oh, yeah.
So
Definitely
seeing that and kind of just like visualizing what that's going to feel like,
right.
And it also gets you hyped up because, you're seeing what's possible. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
This is the Prize Fighting Business. I'm your host, Muay Dan, and today my interview guest is professional mixed martial artist and prize fighter, Austin Osmosis Jones. Austin is 8-4 as a professional mixed martial artist and currently riding a 5-fight win streak. He's going to headline the Fury FC 37 card in Denver, Colorado at the end of this month on September 28th. Austin also played college football at the University of Nebraska and racked up a 7-1 amateur MMA record. He sat down with me to have a conversation about how he transitioned from playing D1 college football to fighting professionally in MMA, the team he has around him, and his martial arts journey up to this point. Now let's dive back into my conversation with Austin Osmosis Jones. All right, today my guest is Austin Osmosis Jones. Austin, thanks for joining me.
Yep, of course.
And so your nickname Osmosis, how did you get that?
One of my buddies in high school, we played football together. We had an awful football team, but a real close friend of mine, he played football at CSU Pueblo. His name's Chase Vaughn. Actually ended up playing for the Broncos. One day we just randomly were just chatting on, Facebook, and he was like, "Hey, your fight name should be Osmosis Jones," and we just kind of rolled with it. And I was like, I actually really like that movie, and it's kind of rolls nice. I think it's gonna sell. So
yeah,
just kind of jumped on it and just went with it. And I've tried to change it a few times, but my friends are like, "No, keep it." And I'm like, I kind of fell in love with it.
It sticks.
If I get good feedback, yeah, I'm gonna keep it. Yeah.
Nice. That's a cool story too.
Yeah,
it's good when a friend does it instead of you just making your own nickname. So.
Right.
Cool. So you're 8-4 as a professional mixed martial artist. You had a 7-1 amateur record, so a strong amateur record, good experience before going pro. But you also played college football. So what was that transition like? I mean, you mentioned your high school football team wasn't very good, but you still made it to the University of Nebraska to play on their team. So what was that like?
It was just a crazy journey. I knew I wanted to play Division I football. Coming out of high school, I don't think Division II schools were looking at me. Yeah. But I knew I had the grind and the skill to be there. So I was just applying for schools at first, just trying to get into college. My mom really wanted me to go, so ended up getting into Nebraska, and I was like, all right, let's just go. Forget it. Let's jump in there and get in the dorms and do all that stuff. And heard they had a tryout and just kind of went for it from there. And there's 30 guys, and I was one out of 30 that was picked. So
wow.
Yeah.
So one guy gets picked each year, or cool.
Yeah, it's really small. They have their preferred walk-ons, but then they have
open tryout.
Yeah, and it was literally I was full-blown not recruited. They didn't even know who I was.
Wow.
I think for a while they called me Andre instead of Austin. And then my name turned into AJ, and then I don't think they even know my name's Austin still. So they know, but it's pretty funny. It was a great journey, man. I really had to grind from zero.
I bet.
made my way into fall camp because only 105 out of 150 players get in, and I was getting in over some scholarship players. So
nice.
I just grinded it out.
That's not just a D1 school. I mean, that's a big football school in the country. Nebraska, It's a real deal.
It's crazy too because they're preseason ranked number 24, and they won 3 games last year. So I think Scott Frost is definitely going to bring it this year. I'm actually going to go check out the CU game. So here we are in Boulder. Yeah,
cool.
So I'll be back up here.
Well, maybe we'll see each
other.
All right. Cool. Yeah. So then, so you graduated college, played football 4 years?
Yeah. So redshirted, but I was I was there for 4 years basically.
Nice. Yeah, and then when you graduated, what was going through your mind? Were you thinking football or?
I actually was thinking both. Like I was going to try out for the NFL and stuff, do the pro day and all that stuff. But I was like, if this doesn't work out, I'm going to go to fighting regardless, It's kind of crazy. I just started watching it, and I was watching the Rampage versus Rashad Ultimate Fighter, and just a really entertaining season. Went and bought the UFC video game and stuff, started playing that, and then I was like, I'm just to start watching fights. Like, it's exciting to watch, And there's just, back then, like, they had pay-per-views every, 2 or 3 months. And
not quite as often.
Yeah. There's this bar called the Fat Toad we'd always go to, and the crowd got bigger and bigger inside the bar, and we just got hooked from there. So
cool. And you were in Nebraska still at this point?
Yeah. I was still, going to school and everything. Okay. And then I actually went and bought like a punching bag and hung it up in our basement and got a speed bag, and I was just throwing kicks, thinking I knew what I was doing just from watching TV. Cool. Everyone does that part. That's the punching bag phase. So
So before you even walked into a martial arts gym, you were interested. You kind of thought, this is at least interesting enough for me to go get a bag and put it up in my house, but you're still thinking football at this time.
Yeah, for sure. I loved both sports at the time. Like, I think I was a little more in love with football at the time, but
sure.
I knew I wanted to compete.
Yeah.
So if football didn't work out, I wanted to at least like learn how to fight and stuff. So
yeah. So when, I guess, did you make that transition? When did you decide I'm no longer going to pursue football and switch full time to martial arts?
Honestly, it was after pro day. It's a crazy story. Like we trained for the 40 and the bench and all that stuff. And that day I just didn't perform well. I think I kind of let the nerves get to me and jumped lower than I normally ever had since like high school probably.
Yeah.
It's just a really bad day, and I was like, well, this must be happening for a reason. So yeah.
So that just
after
kind
that,
of
I
made
was
the
like,
decision?
Yeah, I was like, I'm ready to train.
Cool. So when did you move to Colorado then? I guess what was that next step after deciding I'm going to go train full time or at least pursue this as an option?
So I left school in May of 2012, and I found the nearest gym in Aurora, and it was American Top Team when they were here. So I was training with Bobby Lashley, Alex Huddleston, and it was Youssef as well. So
cool.
We were all just going at. There was no weight classes at the time. We were just me and Youssef going against heavyweights. So
Bobby Lashley's a big man.
Yeah, he's
powerful
big,
man.
He's what really I wrestled in high school and stuff, but he really helped my MMA wrestling because just going against him every day,
and you got to get better.
He really helped simplify wrestling for me too, because I think especially when people are learning to wrestle, if you never have for MMA, I think they kind of almost treat it like jiu-jitsu moves where. Obviously, you start your jiu-jitsu moves slow, and then you build up and you get better and better at it. But wrestling, I think, is all about commitment. Yeah. You learn the move, but you have to really execute and kind of grind to get that takedown.
Right.
It's not just like, I'm going to do this step here and here. It's like, no, you just got to go.
Well, it's interesting you speak to the fact that he made it easier for you, too, because I wrestled in high school as well, and I remember I started as a sophomore, which is late comparatively, especially where I was. It was pretty competitive. But I remember going in and being like, there's just so much to learn. Like, it's way more technical than you think just looking from the outside in. There's a lot of chaining together the takedowns. So, I mean, if someone had been there to make it simple for me, I certainly think it would have helped. So it is very beneficial that your first experience kind of going to an MMA gym is this guy that is not only working with you one-on-one, who has professional experience, but he's also trying to break it down for you.
Right, exactly. And he's like the best wrestlers. They pick 1 or 2 moves, and they master it, and they like, no matter what happens, I'm getting this single leg or I'm getting this double leg.
Yeah, DC with the single, GSP with the double.
And if you transfer that, it's the same thing in MMA, I think. Regardless of what technique you're doing, like fall in love with that technique.
Right.
Even if it's boring to drill it, but just make it your own,
Yeah.
It's gonna be there because you're not thinking about it anymore.
Yeah.
And wrestling, there's no time to think.
No.
If you ever, you've done.
Hardest 2 minutes of your
life.
life.
Right, exactly. So.
Cool. So you started at American Top Team. You had this wrestling background, though, which I'm sure the wrestling helped you in college for football, and then the football is helping you in MMA. But you also had this wrestling orientation. So, I mean, at American Top Team, did they put emphasis on striking? Like, were you starting to develop that as well, or was it primarily grappling and MMA styled striking? Like, what does that look like?
A lot of it was honestly jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
We had a really strong jiu-jitsu program starting out.
Cool.
So that was the main thing, like kind of mixing my wrestling in with my jiu-jitsu game.
Rounding
there
it
was
out.
some just regular kickboxing for the most part.
Okay.
But yeah, it was more of an emphasis on jiu-jitsu.
Cool.
I would say, yeah.
So that's good, though. I mean, essentially, it's reinforcing your base. You know, you're working on your strengths, developing them even further. So, you know, when you do get it to the ground, you should be pretty formidable on top, or be able to dominate where the fight goes. So I guess what was that transition from just training to deciding I'm going to pursue this as a fighter, or did you already think that when you walked in?
Yeah, just going in, I just knew I had to just kind of just learn everything, and I knew my wrestling was gonna be a big part of it.
Yeah.
So just adding the grappling with it, elevate it even more. Because like when you're a wrestler, you just jump in and start rolling with a bunch of jiu-jitsu guys. You're used to just dominating. You're used to like getting those positions that you like, but someone's throwing on a choke, and you know you're overexerting yourself because you know we're taught as wrestlers to go and go to the end, but you also need to learn how to be calm now. So mixing that in, that's why a lot of wrestlers are dangerous on the ground, because they learn the jiu-jitsu and they actually learn how to beat it as well. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
So going in, did you know that you wanted to fight, or was it kind of just go in, feel it out, see if it's something that you could do?
Yeah, at first I was like, I just want to train and learn something, and then one day they threw me in there with some of the fighters, and I was obviously nervous. I didn't know what I was doing, but it kind of just came natural. I was kind of picturing, hitting the bag back in school and stuff. So, but in my mind, I kind of knew I wanted to fight, because I actually went to one of the fight events in Lincoln. It was like at this little outdoor event center, and the first fight I saw, like the dude got slept, but I was like, most people like freak out, like, nah, I don't want to try this, but kind of excited me, and I'm like, I want to be on the other end of the guy that won, but.
Cool.
Yeah.
So when did you take your first fight? How long into training were you?
It was about a year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you'd been training for a significant amount of time. I mean, not only did you have the wrestling background, college football, which makes you a better athlete, higher level athlete than most people, but you trained another year and a half jiu-jitsu, kickboxing before you took your first fight. And then where was it? Where was your first amateur fight?
It was actually at Red and Jerry's. If you're local in Colorado, you know. At least in Littleton, it's a little fun center, whatever they used to have.
Okay.
It closed down. It was actually the last show they had where, a riot broke out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but it's funny because I fought some guy from LA boxing, and they were like, "Oh, he's a boxer. You're just gonna go in there and just take him down." And then he turned out to actually be a wrestler.
Oh.
So it was a good match, honestly. But I think I beat him with my jab and kind of just went forward on him. And we were just kind of talking about this earlier, how you have that confidence going into your first fight, because you're just like, this is, I want to do this and I want to get to the UFC in a year, and you have all these thoughts in your mind. And but I wasn't thinking, I was just going in there and going to fight, and that's what I've been doing lately, is just kind of getting back to that mindset.
Trust your skills.
Because there's so many phases of the game where you're going through it. When you first start out, you're just like a sponge. You're just taking it all in, and you really don't know what works and what doesn't yet. And you're still learning the basics, but then as you start to develop your style more throughout your performance, you start thinking a little too much. You're like, oh, I learned this new move, and I got to do this next fight, or I saw this on the last UFC card, and I want to try to execute this. And it's like, just go back to what you were doing before. Like you're learning, but also just let yourself be free in there.
Yeah.
So
express yourself.
And we focus on too much of like where we're going, where we're headed, instead of right now.
Absolutely.
So you forget about that, and kind of go back to like, it's almost like a kid's mindset where you're just in there, and it's all playful going into your first fight, and you don't really quite know what's going to happen, but you want to win really, really bad, and that's kind of what it comes down to.
Cool.
But you forget that because you're like, oh, I got to get to the UFC and all this
I've got to do these moves. Got to be impressive.
You don't have to do anything. You don't have to fight. You don't have to do any of the competition. You can just train. So as soon as you say I have to do something, it kind of messes up your mindset, in my opinion.
I like that.
Because you don't know. Like, a lot of people are going to tell you, oh, you're going to the UFC next fight.
Sure.
And until you get that contract, and honestly, until you touch gloves and punch that other guy,
Right.
you're not in the UFC.
I agree.
And even that, you got to win. So
Absolutely.
Worrying about that stuff will definitely get you to forget about your opponent, and that's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're preparing for a big fight in your career. You know, you're the main event coming up for the Fury Fighting Championship and their foray into Denver. Primarily a Utah organization, but they're bringing this card to Denver, and you're the main event. At 170 pounds, you're 8-4 as a pro. I mean, what does this mean for you? Have you been a main event before? What is?
Yeah, I have a couple times, but not
Cool.
on this big of a stage. Like National Western Complex is pretty big, and I hear a lot of people are going.
I'll be there.
Yeah, the old me would kind of freak out and be like, "Oh man, this is such a huge fight." But I'm like,
Sure.
it's just another day, like because at the end of the day, there's a cage, a ref, and then 2 fighters. So
Right.
it doesn't matter where the fight's at. It's obviously a big deal, but just kind of do what you normally do.
Yeah.
Do what you've done in the gym and transfer it. So
Absolutely.
the crowd is just the crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's on September 28th. So when this comes out, it'll probably be a week, 2 out. But right now, you're about 4 weeks out, 3 weeks out. So kind of what does that look like right now for you? Are you starting to cut weight? Are you scaling back on the diet? What does training look like?
Training's it's pretty much the same. I don't think just because the fight's getting closer, you should really start amping things up or like kind of overthinking things. Obviously, the diet does change. Take out quite a bit of carbs, eat more vegetables. Honestly, a lot of protein,
Yeah.
a lot of milk and stuff.
Keep the muscles fed.
Exactly. Get fats in your brain and avocados, stuff like that. So, stuff that you should be doing when you cut.
Right.
Nothing crazy, no partying and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Save that for after the fight.
Yeah.
And then just from a training standpoint, just kind of still fall in love with the training. Don't just because a fight's coming up, don't start getting all over serious and just be you.
Yeah.
The whole point is to be free in there.
Does it look different for you inside and outside of fight camp? I assume intensity goes up inside of fight camp, but I mean, as far as day to day, week to week, are you doing anything different inside of fight camp versus outside of it?
Not really. It's about the same because we got guys constantly at Factor X with fights coming up, and I was Derek Brunson for Ian's fight.
Okay. Yeah, I saw you with the Photoshop.
Yeah. It's like whoever's fighting a black dude, I'm the guy. Who,
Okay.
So that was actually a really good experience because it gave me an opportunity to really work my southpaw.
Yeah.
Not saying I'm going to use it or not. I'm not going to give up my secrets for this fight, but that really helped my southpaw, and honestly, it helps your orthodox because switching stances, you learn, you continue to learn.
Absolutely.
'Cause throwing an uppercut with your left hand it's a weird feeling, compared when you switch it up. So that was just a good opportunity. He also had me in the corner for the UFC Anaheim. Cool. We didn't get the win, but it was just a good experience for both of us.
Yeah, actually, now I think about it, I think I saw you do the walkout with him and everything, right, behind
and
him.
that's another thing.
That is
It
cool.
kind of gives you that perspective, and that was the biggest fight of the fight card of the year.
Oh, yeah.
So
Definitely
seeing that and
biggest
kind of
fight.
just like visualizing what that's going to feel like,
Right.
and it also gets you hyped up because you're seeing what's possible. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, brings up another good point, though. I mean, Ian Heinisch has been on a roll in the UFC. He just came off a loss, but prior to that, he was on a huge winning streak. He was, I mean, in my opinion, dominating a lot of his opponents, just out-grinding them. I mean, that has to give you confidence going into a fight like this, being the main event, but on a regional card, yet you're training with UFC guys, main event LFA guys. I mean, those are your normal training partners. So does that kind of help you mentally? I mean, how do you feel about that?
Oh, 100%. And I think Ian's one of those guys just from our gym and just from fighters I've seen, period. He rises to the top very, very fast. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, his first loss, like after that, he went on a tear. Next, he's top 10 in the world.
Yeah.
So just imagine what he's going to do after this, because he had the right mindset after his fight. He was like, I'm going to get right back to work,
Right.
and this is just
Biggest
a
comeback
little minor setback
Yeah.
for a major comeback. And he's gonna bust the scene pretty soon, because Derek Brunson's no slouch.
No.
People don't really know how the way he's lost, like they're all former or current world champions.
No, he's a veteran. He's fought the best of the best in the division. I did think, people were writing Derek Brunson off a little bit. I thought it was going to be competitive. So, I don't think, he should be hanging his head at all after a performance like that. That was very competitive. Had him rocked in the first round.
And this is, Brunson, he fought well,
Yeah.
and people got to give him credit for that. But, it was crazy because Ian caught him early in the in the fight, and I was like, he's gonna blow up after. As soon as that happened, I was like, this dude's about to blow up. And then unfortunately, he didn't put him out. But Brunson's tough.
He did a good job with that defensive grappling, getting the body lock and holding on for dear life.
They both fought. I mean, they're both strong wrestlers too, and they've both developed their striking game. So that was a really competitive fight, and I think that's the fight Ian needed to put him over the top. Yeah. It's not about the outcome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes, it's
you can still be impressive in a performance.
Right.
And he was.
And not to mention, when those fights go the distance, that's minutes of experience.
Yep.
Like, even though, my last 4 fights were decisions, I still have an hour worth of fighting, just in that. So now I'm, breaking out of my shell, and I'm just going to start finishing guys for sure. So
no, I look forward to this card. I'll definitely be there. I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about your opponent?
He's from Kazakhstan.
Okay.
And then he moved to Texas, I believe. I think he's kind of bounced around. I think he's been in California a couple of times from what I've heard.
Gotcha.
But, kind of a stand-up fighter. Don't know a whole lot about him, though, but he's kind of similar to me. He had a rough start and then put together some wins, so I definitely respect him for that. So I'm taking him very serious.
Cool.
Yeah.
So during training camp, what does day-to-day look like for you? Like, what does Monday through Friday look like?
It's a grind. Monday's probably my favorite day, even though it's like, the longest day. For me, at least, we have a 2-hour morning practice.
Wow.
Sometimes I'll hit pads right before that. Then we got our evening practice. It's usually striking, which with Coach Mark, and you better be on your A game because he will check you if you're not paying attention and stuff like that. But that's what also prepares you for your fights too.
Yeah.
So,
is that like pad hitting?
It's partners, a lot of partner drilling and stuff, and
Gotcha.
we'll spar. Sometimes we'll spar for an hour. Sometimes,
wow.
So, and then I teach my beginners jiu-jitsu class from 7 to 8. So it's a long day every day, but
keeps you sharp on the fundamentals, though.
Right, exactly.
Cool.
For sure, because that's what I'm teaching is just the basic fundamentals and every day I got a new student and I got to reteach, and it's a mental challenge, but it also gets me out of the just fight mode all the time element, to obsess about a fight over like all you're doing is training. Once again, you can burn yourself out. So, kind of getting away from the MMA practice and teaching the jiu-jitsu class. It's a lot of fun because, my students they'll talk about their day and we kind of joke and I'll get them involved, help teach them how to teach sometimes. So
cool.
It's just something different. It's good to get out of that and just be
for
something different while you're at the gym.
Give back.
If you're just fighting and you're just training, and all you're doing is MMA, you're not even putting on the gi or doing anything different.
Yeah.
You can burn yourself out for sure.
I believe it.
Be a martial artist,
Yeah.
Yep.
So Monday's morning MMA practice, maybe pads before that, evening striking practice, drilling, maybe some sparring, probably light sparring if it's going to be sparring.
Yeah, light sparring.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
the best day is Friday.
Okay.
Friday night fights is what I call it.
Yeah.
Because we just have a really good structure. Like not everyone is we have a board where if you have a fight coming up, you're on the board, or if you're helping someone prepare. I'm always on the board, which I love because, whether I'm fighting or someone else is, like, I'm getting that experience, So, and they're just entertaining. I always tell people to come watch, come watch sparring because it's fun because it's like a little mini fight night.
I believe it. So what does being on the board mean for you?
It's like, it's different because you really simulate your fight. And
okay.
Sparring on the open mat is totally different than sparring in the cage.
So being on the board means the two of you are going into the cage together for how many rounds?
Yep. 1 to 2, sometimes 3.
Cool.
I've actually gone with Anthony Smith for 3 rounds once before, and Brian Camozzi for 5 one day. Mark was just helping, develop me. So I love it though. But it's crazy because we'll have some guys will be sparring on the open mat, but every now and then coach will be like, guys, come up to the cage and coach. So it's almost like a fight crowd.
Right.
So you'd have a bunch of people around the cage and we get into it, And,
cool.
We have corners, and all that stuff. And sometimes we'll have a referee in there every now and then. We really try to simulate fight night, and then it just gets you ready.
And you do that once a week throughout camp?
Once a week.
Okay.
Yeah. I've sparred with everyone. Ian, I've sparred with Dustin.
Nice.
Dustin's a really good guy to prepare for.
Yeah.
And then Chris Camozzi. Yeah, all those guys, just savages in the gym.
Yeah.
So.
No, you got a lot of high-level veterans in there that can help you out. That's cool.
Yeah.
So Monday's kind of MMA, Drilling at night, Fridays sparring, and then in between is just kind of like skill development, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, drilling more, striking, drilling.
You know, in our jiu-jitsu, we obviously do the no-gi.
Okay.
But we put our MMA gloves on.
Nice.
Because, you know, it's hard to get a choke with those gloves on and gets you ready for fights. So it's not just like we're just doing jiu-jitsu. We're like MMA-style jiu-jitsu. So
are these pro MMA or competitive team-specific classes, or are you in an open class that anyone could join?
So for our team practice, it's competitive. Like some guys from other open classes will get in because they've been training for 6+ months.
Sure.
And, you know, they've developed the skills to hang with some of the top guys because there's some savages.
Yeah.
You know, if you know who Marcus Edwards is, and rolling with him, you better be ready. So but our class is pretty big Tuesday, Thursday nights. So there's like 40 of us on the mat at least.
But invite only, essentially. It sounds
for the
like?
most part,
Okay.
Like
cool.
Professor Busy, like he has his gym, and some guys will come over from there and roll with us. So, and it's you gotta, I think, you know, at least 3 stripe white.
Okay.
belt,
Okay.
yeah.
Nice. So you have to have some kind of fundamental grappling ability and then striking ability, and then you could train with the competitive team if that was kind of your goal to move in that direction.
Yeah, if you want to get good looks, because we roll pretty intensely. It's not, because we like to scramble, and you have to develop that stuff for the cage, you know. So
right.
we try to make it MMA style as much as possible.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you do anything on the weekends, or do you take that time off?
We have Saturday open mat.
Okay.
I'll teach another no-gi class, and then we'll roll. That's like one of my favorite days to train as well, because it's laid back, but it's also you can get a lot of good work in. You know, if you can get some pad work in with somebody or get some rolls in. So it's nice. We've been really building our open mat.
I saw a post from Coach Mark Montoya talking about that it's actually open to everybody. On Saturday mornings.
So 11 a.m. to 12 p.m.
Nice,
just
cool.
good rolls, gi and no gi. So
very cool. I like that it's open too. I think it inviting other people in again gives you more looks, more practice.
Exactly.
Better for you.
And there's some really good black belts that have come in, and
I bet.
people of all different styles, you know. So it definitely pays off.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're certainly more grappling oriented, or at least from what you're speaking to, your experience is very grappling oriented. I mean, do you think that your style is that way, or do you? How would you describe your?
I think it's
your style?
In my fights, it comes naturally.
Yeah.
It's just there, based on just like my timing on the feet. If someone swings really hard, I'm gonna counter that with my wrestling.
Yeah.
But I'm also learning how to counter that with my striking now, which is gonna be even better because that's where the blend comes in. Flash them with other stuff rather than just a takedown. So
make them think. So who do you work on your striking with primarily?
Coach Mark and Youssef and G. His name's G Money. He's one of our OGs.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Cool. So and that's with mitts. I mean, do you get like one-on-one?
And just time? Honestly, my striking has gotten better just from going with UFC guys like
drilling.
Drilling and sparring with Anthony Smith.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I was Rashad and Hector Lombard.
All right.
You know? So I'm sure I'll be Yoel at some point, you know, like so.
Well, you do have the build, you know.
Right.
Stockier, built, you know, strong. So it's a good look for a lot of those guys, especially because a lot of high-level guys do have that kind of build, that powerful build and the wrestling ability, grappling ability, and it's a tough combination to deal with if you're not used to it.
And you're seeing a lot of guys that are excelling in this sport being able to, they could be high and they could be low.
Colby Covington. Oh my
level
goodness.
changing. And, and just the pace and mixing things up.
Did you watch that Colby Covington fight?
I didn't get a chance to. I have to go back and watch that one.
It's impressive. It's interesting. I mean, he mixes up high, low, elbows. I mean, everything. Nothing's just overly impressive technical-wise. Like, you're not saying, you know, this guy's great at Muay Thai or great at kickboxing. He just puts everything together so beautifully that it keeps the other person guessing, like you were saying, mixing in the striking.
It's going to be, because he's fighting Usman, right?
That's what I saw, maybe UFC 244 or something.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be a really close fight.
Yeah,
you know, they're very similar.
Yeah, very similar.
They both blend really well. And
whoever can dictate their game.
Whoever shows up, the best man on that day will win.
That's
right.
That's right.
Yep.
So what do you do to kind of get mentally ready for a fight? I mean, what does like a week out, 2 weeks out look like for you? I imagine you're having to cut weight, but like mentally, what does that feel like for you?
Mentally, my goal is just to be as calm as can be, because you know honestly it's easy to get through your training schedule and you have the structure that you have put in place. You know what each day is going to look like up until the fight. But there's always some stuff outside of the fight that you got to deal with.
Right.
It's just, for some reason, when you have a fight coming up, it's like there's all these emergencies and, issues, relationship issues, family issues, stuff like that. So,
and you're a little less patient.
Right. And like the key is just to keep your eye on the prize. I think that's honestly, the actual fight, and then like the fight outside of, the fight it's relative. It's the same thing, It's all about how you handle it mentally, because you're going to get those nerves before your fight, and you're going to have to deal with stuff outside the gym. So just, be cool, calm, and collect, So that's the key, because you can tell when someone's fighting emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell if someone's using their logic. So I think I like being on the logic end of things, but it's good to have emotion too sometimes. So
sure.
I think it's a balance. But
absolutely.
But the most important thing is to be calm, I think.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
So what does the weight cut look like for you? What do you walk around at normally?
For my camp, I'm about 184.
Okay.
Sometimes some days 180.
Not too bad.
Yeah. So I used to cut, from 200 pounds, and I think that was just too taxing on the body.
Sure.
So I just brought my weight down a little bit. Still feel just as strong, if not more cardio.
Right.
So yeah, I just changed my food, took in more water, honestly. So
a week out, are you about that level, or has it dropped off just from training?
It'll be around I'll be around 180.
Okay.
Yeah, still hydrated and stuff like that. So.
And then what about 2 days out? Are you still there?
Yeah. It's pretty rough. Yeah.
So you're doing most of the cut with just water, just dehydrating it, getting that water weight off, and then getting it back.
Actually, so I water load actually. So
okay.
I'll drink 2 gallons one day, a gallon, and then taper off.
Yeah.
So 2 days out, and then honestly, I think it really comes down to the food that you're eating,
mm-hmm.
because you're constantly letting water out of your body, just even through your pores. And we sweat already, and I think it's all about the food you put in, because there's food that's going to stick to you, and there's food that's going to go right through your system and get it through there properly, get all that nutrients in. So that's basic stuff, and there's all these diet schemes and all this stuff, and it's okay, protein, vegetables.
Yeah. Don't
so
eat
what's
too
so
much
hard
bread.
about that? So
is it a tough cut for you, or is it pretty manageable? What mentally, I guess, how hard is it for you?
Mentally, I think that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
Physically, I'm fine, but mentally, it's don't forget, keep your eye on the prize,
Right.
But also don't freak out about the weight cut either. People stress and they're like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to make weight and all this stuff, and just let the weight fall off. No matter how long it takes, just get through it. And sometimes you got to put on some good music, or just meditate, stuff like that. It's normal stuff that you got to do to get through. And I think each time you do it, what works and what doesn't.
Right.
But sometimes you will have a bad cut. So
did you cut weight for wrestling?
Yeah, I did. Mm-hmm.
So you're pretty used to it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Right. And I think it was a lot harder in wrestling too. Yeah. Because we'd have our dual match on Thursday.
Right.
And that's a weight cut, and then here comes Saturday.
Tournament.
They give you a pound allowance. That's about it. And you couldn't even eat or drink too much, before your dual match, and you got a whole tournament. So
yeah. And I assume your weigh-ins are night before now.
Yeah.
Compared to wrestling, where they're the same day, really an hour or two before you have to wrestle, and you just got to stuff the food down and go for it. So, I mean, you must be pretty good, at least at the rehydration part, and
for sure,
renutrienting your body so that you can gain that weight and feel good the next day.
Yep. And honestly, I think the week of the weight cut is important, what you eat then, but I think right after is even more crucial, because you put the wrong stuff in your body. That's what you're bringing into the fight.
Right.
I've heard guys, they go to go eat some fried food and stuff. It's oh, I gotta feed the soul and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, do that after the fight, because you never know how your body's gonna react. And a lot of it's not just how your body feels, but how you are mentally. The food you put in your mind.
Very true.
Goes a long way.
Like you were saying with the healthy fats.
Yeah, so I'll eat a lot of healthy fats, and then after weigh-ins, I'll get some blueberries, because those are good for the brain.
Yep.
I think it helps you focus more. Bananas, stuff like that.
Nice.
If any fruit, so.
How did you develop this approach? I mean, obviously it's easy to say, just eat healthy, but it does require some kind of knowledge and understanding of, what is healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So did you get this help in college from a nutritionist? How did you develop your diet and approach?
A lot of it was trial and error, to be honest, because I've had bad weight cuts before, and sometimes I thought I could eat whatever I wanted, and that was not the case. And, Honestly, it's just like I think everyone's body's different too. So I do eat a lot of fish anyway. So I think I kind of figured out what proteins I really enjoy and stuff.
Right.
And kind of stuck with that. Good protein, like salmon, eggs, spinach, stuff like that.
Very lean.
Yeah.
And back to the healthy fats you were talking about.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So I did a little bit of research and stuff, and just kind of, I really wanted to know what foods were good for my brain.
Right. I like the approach.
For sure, because that's like sometimes you're not going to feel that, regardless of what you eat, you're not going to feel great. But if your mind is, sharp, there's certain foods that will make you happier and make you,
I agree.
Get on that high frequency compared to other foods like heavy sugars, which
I love bread, but it does not feel good in my belly.
Right. That's, you eat a lot of sugary foods, and that's why, you sometimes after that, that come down from it, you start feeling a little depressed and sad.
Yep.
But there's foods that bring you up. So.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
A lot of them are vegetables.
Yep.
So.
No, I think that's critical, especially to be able to push yourself day in and day out like you have to. So, what do you do as far as recovery? Like after a hard workout or after a tough week, is recovery just sitting on the couch, or is it more active?
A lot of it I think is sleep, because I mean, especially too, we train in the evenings and stuff, and during the week it's really tough to get good sleep. So you got to get up in the morning and do what you got to do throughout the day. So when I'm resting, I try to sleep as much as possible, because I think if you go into a fight without sleep, that's just as bad as putting bad food in your body, if not worse, because you need to be alert and stuff, and you know what it's like to drive when you're drowsy versus like if you got a good night's sleep. It's the same thing. Performance is performance.
It's a good analogy.
Yeah.
So what about do you do any massage stuff, any yoga, like stretching?
Yeah, I do all that stuff. Yeah. I do. I actually recently started doing yoga.
Cool.
Bikram yoga, however you pronounce it. But that one's really paid off, because you're in these holds for minutes, sometimes 2 minutes, and you got to hold that position. It's core strength and being comfortable being uncomfortable. So
it's hard for me mentally. Yeah, yoga's a mental struggle for me a lot of times.
I make a joke saying like it's one of the manliest things you can do, but like a lot of guys are like, yoga, what do you? A bunch of girls do that, and it's like, nah, man, you got to get in there, because your manhood will be checked.
Oh, it's crazy. I look around and these girls are just doing it so effortlessly, and I'm like struggling.
Yeah, and you think you're flexible until you do yoga, so.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Do you feel like it's helped your game as far as flexibility?
Sure, yeah. Flexibility for sure. Like just, I started lifting weights when I was 14, playing football, and like we stretched, but it wasn't like anything that you really need, because especially your shoulders. We're in our fighting stance, and we're constantly shelled up, so it's expanding your chest again and your shoulders that really help open, get that rotation. So it's paying off for sure. And even on the ground, especially on the ground, I think.
Did you avoid injuries in football, or did you have any that you still feel now?
I actually got pretty lucky. I don't think I've ever had a serious concussion.
Nice.
Ankles, only a couple ankle sprains, but yeah, nothing crazy.
Cool. That's really good. Making it through.
I guess my AC joint once. I got tackled and rolled over, but I was pretty lucky with that.
Yeah, knees all good.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
So you do some yoga. You kind of take an all the above recovery approach, but primarily focused on rest and eating healthy. And I mean, those really are going to be the pillars of success, in my opinion. So I guess skill development Monday through Friday, hard sparring on Saturday. Do you do any light sparring during the week? You mentioned on Tuesday you kind of do that.
A little bit. Like I might grab one of my teammates, and we'll just kind of touch spar. We don't even have gloves on or anything. It's just kind of like hand fighting and playing around.
But really, it's just developing the skills. Monday through Friday, or Monday through Thursday, we develop skills. Friday, we put them to the test.
Exactly. So every week, we'll do our sparring, and we'll actually judge the round too.
Nice.
So if you get finished, then it's like you lost.
Yeah. Right.
But if the other guy submits you or whatever, it could possibly a draw will judge that round. So we really try to simulate fight night, and and coach is he's like, if you won, enjoy it, but get back to work, and if you lost, don't you got another week to fight,
Cool.
But it's good, because then you're because if you're just going into a fight and you're just sparring and just whooping everyone's ass, and or if you're losing every round and the next week you just keep carrying that on, but every week we're getting judged each fight.
No,
like,
it is good.
So
there's a balance
then it's
there.
like it keeps you humble too. You know?
Yeah. But there's definitely a balance to be found. You know, you don't want to get your ass kicked every week, and you certainly don't want to be the one delivering the ass kicking every week. You kind of do want that balance of getting beat up and then also being able to implement your game on other people to see what works, see what doesn't work, and see what you need to work on.
And that's the thing, because when Mark first started putting me in there with guys, it was nerve wracking, and there's sometimes several weeks, probably one time it was 2 months straight where I was just losing every round.
Yep.
I think it was Anthony Smith.
I've been there.
Yeah. And it's like my goal is at least I'm going to come back and win one of these nights, and that was the goal. And it's happened a couple of times. A few guys I still haven't got yet, but that's the goal, is to get them. But
cool.
But that's the competitive spirit we have at our gym. We're a family, but we're also, we're all trying to win in there,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
And to be able to pursue this full time, you do have a day job. You drive for Uber. So how do you balance that? I mean, do you do that in the morning? Are you doing that at night? How
literally
do you
every day is different. Some days
Okay.
I'll drive in the morning, some days I'll drive in the night. The schedule is it's all over the place, but
you just make it work
easier.
for you.
Yeah.
That's good. I mean, that's the beauty of that type of job, that you have that flexibility to focus on your priority and then also make money, right?
For sure, yeah. And honestly, it's helped me build more of a fan base,
Yeah.
I've met people from out of state. I've met people who live here.
It's a marketing
that just
technique.
moved here, and I've gotten people to go to my fights and stuff like that.
Put your poster up in the back.
Right. And just like we're sitting here having a podcast, every ride is a podcast. You know?
Yeah, that's very true.
And you hear people's stories, and you really learn a lot about people. And for the most part, you see the common ground.
Yeah,
people.
absolutely.
I've had people get in the car and they're just pissed off, and they're just I'm this guy's an asshole. At first, but then eventually he becomes a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
Because you never know, people are going through their day and they're just trying to get to where they need to be, and sometimes you just gotta listen to people, and it definitely helps. And I've had to vent to passengers too, and they're cool with it, But you also got to figure out the people have their boundaries. So,
sure.
But that's a skill I just developed. I feel
that's something you find through the
rides,
conversation. Yeah.
I've done over I think 4,000 rides.
Wow.
So
cool.
Learning how to break the ice with people is and
that's a good skill to have.
Right, and people I think there's people that give Uber drivers shit, but it's I think it's a skill just like anything else.
Absolutely.
To do it well.
Absolutely.
You got to have your driving strategy. You got to have got to learn how to have
You're
the
running
mouthpiece.
your own business.
Right. You learn how to develop a mouthpiece and talk to people, and you're still selling yourself. So
Yep.
It's not the most smart thing to do to your car, but
sure. Guess you just build it in.
right,
build
but
it
people do dumber things with their car, so
without getting paid for it.
Right, yeah. So I think everyone should try it because it gets you out of your shell. Because when I first started, I was this is weird as hell.
Yeah.
I'm just picking up some random person, but it takes a little courage, and I think that's why people kind of shame it.
Well, I mean, everything you do takes a little bit of stepping out of your shell to be able to do it. And that's the other interesting part to me, Chris Lockhart, who was recently on here, and he was talking about how he likes fighting in tournaments sometimes better than a home fight because he has to worry about selling the tickets in a home fight, and it's just one more thing to think about.
Right.
I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Do you enjoy the aspect of selling the fight, or would you rather be able to focus on training, or is it just part of the game you have to do?
The thing is, I've never done a tournament. I think that's a totally different mental challenge in itself because you don't necessarily know who you're going to fight right away. Or,
right.
You don't know how it's going to turn out. You may not even have a fight. I've heard things like that have happened, and you just got to go in there expecting to win, and beat everyone. So I think that's a tough challenge. I would do something like that one day maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, selling the fight, I think it's kind of fun as well. I think it's a better opportunity to make some money.
Right.
And just build your base, because exposure is key in this. When you get recruited for the UFC, they want to know if they can even sell you. There's plenty of high level, amazing fighters out there, but if you're not marketable, then that's the downfall.
That's realistic. I mean, that's realistic thinking, in my opinion, especially with the UFC. They do want to see people that have a following, people that can get the crowd excited about them.
Exactly. And you develop that, you develop that charisma by having big fights.
Yeah, like your one coming up.
Right.
So, I mean, that is an interesting idea that no one else has really brought up, but you're almost developing your skill in the ticket sales and marketing arena while you're developing your career skills and your fighting skills. That's cool.
Yeah, and you hear the funniest things because you also develop tough skin because you hear some of the funniest things selling tickets. So some of your closest friends are like, all right, man, yeah, I'm gonna be there, man. It's gonna be great. You better not get knocked out.
I know.
I'm like, what? Thanks for that. You know,
you better win since I'll be there.
I know, it's like, you better win then, right? Yeah, and they're like,
or can I get the tickets for free?
Yeah, that. Oh man, there's so many things you got to deal with. Like I posted a status on Facebook saying like the top 5 things that a fighter hates to hear.
Yep.
So what time are you fighting? Like they like all the fights are gonna be knockouts, or they're all gonna be decisions. You don't know.
Right.
You know,
7:15.
like let's see. I plan on fighting at 10, but I might fight at 6 because everyone just got knocked out or whatever.
Just show up. Just be there.
Right. Or like it's funny even going back to Uber. Like I've had passengers like it's just hilarious. They're like, so what do you do, man? And they kind of know because they're like, I see the cauliflower ear. And, oh, I had a feeling you were a fighter, man. And it's like, so tell me about that. That's badass. He's like, you ever been knocked out? I'm like, that's like the first question they ask.
It's like asking someone if they ever killed somebody.
Right. They're like, what's it like? I'm like, wow, you're just like really trying to get deep here, you know?
That's pretty funny.
But and then they're also like, so is Uber your full-time gig? You've heard that one a million times, you know? But it's hilarious. So, but you know, you just got to get used to answering those questions. Like as long as, especially, you know, part of I think being in the UFC and stuff is not just how good you can fight, but how you can maneuver your way around there, you know?
Yeah.
You don't want to just be an asshole walking around, and you want to be able to answer anybody's question because you never know who can help change your life, and you never know what type of opportunities you'll have, and and not to mention you piss the wrong person off, that could be detrimental to your career.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I love the mentality it seems like you take towards it. It seems like you're very open to the experience and very present throughout the whole thing and enjoying the journey. And I think that's something, like you spoke to it at the beginning, but a lot of people overlook the journey. They want to get to that destination, but it seems like you're enjoying it. And I mean, I would assume you got experience with this type of stuff, having to deal kind of with the press at least being around during college football and the need to speak with people and having support team around you, like the coaches and the athletic department and, the people that just do your laundry. Right. So I mean, you've had this experience even through college. It kind of prepared you almost for this pursuit that you're in.
For sure, yeah. And I think, a lot of it comes down to just taking it all in, those things aren't going to go away. Like if you're an introverted person, like I actually am,
sure.
But I've learned how to talk to people. You know, my major is actually communication studies, so I think that actually paid off.
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think part of that, just kind of embracing everything, and you want to take it all in because one day you're not going to be an athlete anymore, and you obviously don't want like fame and all that stuff to get to you, but just take it all in and embrace it because it's not going to be there forever.
Yeah, very
And
true.
you never know, like, you leave a mark. So I think that's the important thing.
Absolutely.
But also, like, that's another mental challenge. Like I said, like, it definitely will determine your performance. If you let it bother you and you're like, oh, I got to do all this media stuff and I got to do this, it's like you have that support for a reason. You're being marketed for a reason. That's
true.
Part of your job,
Yeah.
So.
And all exposure is good exposure, right?
Right. And how you do anything is how you do everything. So
I like it.
It's cool, just have fun with it. I think that's the key. And there's been times where I haven't, and I'm just like, oh, I'm so focused on the fight and I don't want to deal with this and all that stuff. And it's like, that's just more complaining. And
what do you do when that happens?
When I have like a lot of media?
I mean, I'm sure you recognize, maybe not in the moment, but, later on in the evening or something that you're in this funk that you're too bogged down with your, whatever's going on mentally. How do you like get yourself out of that? How do you separate from that?
I think it's just like you just got to recognize it and check it.
Yeah.
It's once again, it comes down to practicing in that. Yeah. And I think just developing like a stoic mind, just everything's okay. Like regardless of what happens, whatever I'm dealing with, I'm going to get through this. And it's really whatever. Like, let's not make a big deal about it. It's just experience in life.
Yeah.
You can't really predict anything. So just deal with it,
Nice. I like it.
But, I used to be the total opposite, so.
Of course. Martial arts helps,
right?
right?
Know,
it's that
exactly.
journey.
Yep. And you're going to have those anxieties and freak out. But I think it's that moment when it's happening, shutting your brain off and just like, okay, this doesn't have to be real in my mind. I can just take this all in and move forward. And I know I'm moving forward every second. So, yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
So you have to, to support your career pursuit, you do drive Uber. You have to, have a job on the side. So the balance, you had to find something flexible to be able to kind of do this and support it. What do you envision as like the next year or two? I mean, is the goal to go training full time, or do you always envision kind of keeping a flex job on the side so that you can support it and be able to, I mean, the money helps, right? It helps you because you can do the things on the side, you can get recovery or whatever, pay for a massage, eat better foods or whatever. So is that something you plan to keep as long as you can?
Honestly, like I enjoy driving Uber.
Yeah.
You know, like it's something to do too, and so I'll still have that. Even when I'm in the UFC, like I'll just randomly just start driving.
When you're in the UFC, I like that.
Right,
I like that.
Right, yeah, exactly. So honestly, it's good, and once again, it's a good way to get exposure. And I think when there's good drivers and there's bad drivers. I think the drivers are just like, I just need to do this for money. Like they're always rude.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, just do it. It's whatever. It's not the best job. Just do it. It's money. It's easy.
Right.
It's super easy. So just.
Well, there's this idea of like prestige with different jobs that are a little silly. I mean, everybody's just doing the job to get paid to a
Exactly.
certain extent,
I know. Yeah.
you know?
Like, let's be real about it. Yeah. But honestly, like I grew up in Colorado. I was born and raised.
Oh,
here.
you were? Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
And I learned more about the streets than anyone I know.
Yeah.
If someone tells me where something's at, I can pretty much figure it
neat.
out.
Yeah.
It's and all the different views of Denver. It's
Right.
it's beautiful.
You know where to tell people to
yeah,
go.
but I've gotten rides through the mountains, which is nice because it's usually on a stressful day, and I'm just like, oh,
Sure.
this is cool.
Yeah.
Like I don't really get a ride coming out, but just riding through the mountain trails and stuff is good.
Yeah.
Mentally too. So there's a lot of just each ride is different. You've taken somewhere different every time. So
Yeah.
that alone is just kind of makes it interesting. And coming out of college, I got desk jobs and stuff like that, and it just wasn't for me.
It can be soul sucking.
Yeah. And like I just kind of want to, fighting is my business. My my athleticism, my body is my business. So might as well go all in for now.
I love it.
Because you see people change their life every single day in the UFC or just professional athletes, period. Like even when they're done playing, they have these opportunities set up for them. They can build their own business much faster than a lot of people just because you have that following. So
And those skills. I mean, those skills you've developed along the way, like you were saying, just everywhere.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends. 20s they're a struggle. It's not easy, but I'd rather create myself and be ready for what's next. And you really learn. You go through those bumps in the road, and then next thing you know, you're just taking off.
But you're controlling your future
Exactly.
this way. You're manifesting your own destiny. You're not leaving it up in the air for someone else to
Exactly.
to help,
And you're not. Yeah, exactly. You have no room to wait. And you're just kind of you're gonna fail. Like it's that's the truth. But when you get through that, you're just that much stronger. And I don't think failure ever ends while you're alive. So you might as well go for it. And then you're developing those self-reliant skills.
And more
regardless of
skills.
what people think or what they see. You're developing that wealth within yourself.
Yep.
And that's the key. Like who cares if you don't have all these things now? Like it's where are you on the inside?
Right.
Like, people gain those things, they lose them just as fast.
Yeah.
So I'd rather have nothing now and then learn how to keep it.
Yep.
So
learn in your 20s, earn in your 30s.
Right. And it's okay. Cry a little bit. You know what I mean? Like cry about life and fix it.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
it's gonna suck. Just accept it and then build from it. Because I think that's the opportunity. You either take it as a negative or you take it as a positive. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, you clearly did that. You're on a 5-fight win streak, so that's impressive.
Yeah.
How do you approach it financially on the expense side? So, you coach, you have your Factory X. Do you do any strength and performance or anything? Are you working with Landau?
Yeah, Landau's. Yeah. So we kind of have a little cool deal where we're linked.
Cool.
With Landau. And
so do you just pay one fee, or do you pay 2 fees, one for the gym, one for Landau?
So I just pay Landau's now because Coach Mark gave me the opportunity to
Coach
teach.
Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah,
Cool.
And that to me, like, as soon as he called me and asked me, I was like, I'm jumping on this because one, like I can develop my skills again, and I think I really like needed the basics because at the time when he hired me, my record was 3-4.
Okay.
And I was like, man, I need to do something.
But he saw something in you.
Yeah, I need to get my basics down because that's what fights come down to,
Sure, but it's also a good vote of confidence from him. He's saying, hey, I have faith in this guy to be able to deliver.
And when he called me and told me that, like, I was more nervous than I ever have been with getting a fight announced, because it's like, dang, people are going to rely on me. I'm like, am I good at teaching? And
well, this guy you have trust in, that you put your trust in, now put his trust back in you, and it's, your opportunity.
Big responsibility. And also, my mom always told me, your work represents you. So when there's days where I'm like, I don't really feel like teaching, man. I just got done training. I'm dying right now. Like, I'm just like, all right, I have to do this well, because, your reputation, it spreads,
Oh, yeah.
So I want to be known as a good jiu-jitsu coach, at least as far as basics, because I'm still developing my skills.
Sure.
I'm still a purple belt, and
cool.
But obviously the goal is to continue to move up in the ranks, but also just accept the journey. So
yeah.
So,
I think it's a win-win-win, right? You get your gym subsidized, you get to learn more by teaching, to teach us to learn again, and you're making an impact on these people's lives, the people that you're actually teaching and helping on their own martial arts journey while you're on your own. So
right, and as well as I do that, it's not easy being a fighter. It's tough, man. It's, just the fight alone is tough, and you'll be surprised what, the students, they don't compete or anything. Some do, but they're dealing with life outside of the gym too. So. But
life makes you better at martial arts, and martial arts makes you better at life.
Right, and like I'm really kind to them, but then I'm also like, some days I'm hard on them. I'm like, come on, man, we gotta pay attention to get this done.
Yeah.
So it's like it's tough love, but it's also good love as well, because they give back and I give back to them. So.
And as an individual, you enjoy someone holding you accountable. It's hard to hold yourself accountable. Sometimes it's nice when you have someone else doing that for you that truly cares about your improvement and your progress as well.
And just like, I think, learning how to teach was harder than training, because people come to you with all different questions, like whether it was based on the technique, or it's like something they learned. I'm like, I don't even know that. Like, you saw that online. Like, you want me to show you that? So I had to like go back and I have to go back and learn the move. Otherwise, you don't want to sound ridiculous or tell them something wrong, and they try it in a tournament. And they're like, is that your coach over there? You know what I mean? Like, so it's hard. And I feel what Mark feels now, from a lower, because he's a very advanced coach, one of the best in the game.
Absolutely.
So I'm just getting a taste of what he has to deal with, because he's also managing fighters too. Like, not like management, but like managing fighters within his gym, in the sense of like, if they have something going on in their life, he's got to answer that call and be like, hey man, what's up? Like, where have you been? Like, what's going on? Tell me what's going on. And usually there's something that they're dealing with. That's why they're not at the gym. So
that's awesome. That's awesome.
It's not, a lot of it's not because they're lazy.
That's high praise. That's high praise for a coach, that he does care. I mean, everyone says they care on an individual basis, but making that effort to call. I mean, dude, that dude is traveling every weekend all over the world for fighting. So I mean, the fact that he does pick up that phone and calls someone and says, hey, what's going on? I mean, that's big.
Right. And just like going to Anaheim alone, like, we were out there and we were still training. We were training on the balls off, and it's like,
I saw it on Instagram. You guys hitting pads in the back.
I got home, I was like, I am so tired. Like, this man does this every week.
Wow.
It's like nuts. And that was just, a couple states away. Like, he's gone all over the world and done it. So I definitely,
impressive.
Yeah. And then coming back the very next day and coaching, it's,
But
I also think it's because it's his passion. He loves doing it. So
it's his life.
That definitely helps, but I'm sure there's days where he's just like, I just want to be left alone, so that's normal, so, but I appreciate him for that, and it just kind of shows like there's levels, Yep. And you never know. You can always give more,
Oh yeah. Oh, that's the challenge.
Right.
So take me back then. So you were essentially at American Top Team. So you moved from Nebraska to Colorado just after graduation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you moved from Nebraska to Colorado. Kind of decide football is done with after the pro day. You started American Top Team. You trained there for a year and a half. You get your first fight. Your first amateur fight. Did you win that fight?
Yeah, I did.
Cool. So you won it, and what were you thinking from there?
I was like, let's keep going. Like, that feeling, when you win, like, you just want more, like, the next day.
So how long were you at American Top Team?
I think it's about 2 years, two or 3 years of my career. Yeah.
So shortly thereafter, you moved to Factory X.
I actually went to Bellator, the Bellator fight for Bobby Lashley, and I met Mark there, actually. And from there, like, American Top Team closed down, and I was like, I'm definitely going to Factory X if this, American Top Team closed down. So
yeah.
It was great, man. Like I started training with Brian Camozzi,
Yep.
Chris Camozzi, all those guys right away, and I was like, man, this is just different.
High level MMA and kickboxing.
Yeah, like
striking aspect now too.
Yeah, and I was just getting my ass whooped every day, and
Sure.
it's like I think there's fighters that shy away from that, even at the highest level.
Yeah.
I'm like, who cares if you lose the round in the gym as long as you don't lose the fight.
Right.
So that alone is just like it just molds you.
Yeah.
And even then, like I went on a losing streak even when I was at Factory X.
Sure.
But I knew I was still in the right place because I was getting those rounds, and like regardless of like losing those fights, I knew I was getting better.
Yeah.
So,
So you went 7-1 as an amateur.
mm-hmm.
How long of a time frame were those fights happening in? Did you knock that out in like 2 years, or was that over a period of time?
As an amateur?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was there. Fight after fight after fight.
Okay,
Yeah, it was
cool.
for Sparta Combat League, and
see.
Jeff was just having me fight all the time.
Nice.
So,
So what made you decide to go pro? What was the moment where you realized, hey, I think
I won a
get paid?
couple. I think 3 amateur belts.
Nice.
So,
3 amateur titles?
Yeah. So after that, I was like, let's go pro. Won my first fight in 27 seconds. It was out in Oklahoma.
Wow.
It was
Your
hilarious.
first pro fight.
Yeah.
Pro
yeah.
debut, 27-second win.
Yeah, it was it was out in Oklahoma, and like there was like 14 fights at first, and they all like most of them dropped off, and it was hilarious because like I was just, it was my pro debut, and there was only 5 fights left, and the promoter comes up to me, he's like, good news, man, you're on the main card. I was like, oh really? It's
Wow.
like, obviously I'm on the main card. There's only
Pro
5
debut,
fights. Yeah.
That promoter must have been shitting himself.
Oh man, it was crazy. But it was excellent. It was set up really well. But
Sure.
Then after that, I won another fight here in Denver, and the craziest fight of my career was if you know Ian Stonehouse, he's a vet in the game for Colorado.
Okay. Not too familiar with him, but
Yeah, I think at leleast once a year we talk about that fight,
Cool.
and like it was nuts.
like a war.
It was a war. I was winning most of the fight.
Sure.
And he caught me with 15 seconds left.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and I actually went back and watched the fight a few days ago. I was like, holy shit. Like, I went balls to the wall, like, the entire fight. And I was like, yeah, I gassed out.
Yeah.
And he caught me at the end. And it's a real thing, and I think that was, like, one of the best
Yeah.
learning opportunities I had. Like, I was super pissed when it happened.
And you
but
know the feeling, though. You know that thought that went through your head. Oh, God, I got it. And your heart jumps up, and your adrenaline starts flowing, and that's what you have to control.
And it was by far, one of probably my favorite fight for sure, and one of my favorite opponents, because I think when you talk about like heart, who has heart in a fight, it's not how much they can exert. Anyone could just go balls to the wall like I did, but he was able to just take that beating, and then he at that right moment, I think that was his belief system. It wasn't. I don't think it was a lucky punch at all.
No.
Now looking back on it. you
Yeah.
know.
Well, Chael Sonnen talked about it. I think it was when he was coaching on the Ultimate Fighter show, and he had this long rant about it, but the main part that I took from it was, when you're in the fight and someone's on top of you and you're in a tough spot, you have a million reasons to quit.
Yep.
Like, there's so many things going through your head, but there's only one reason to keep going, like, because you want to win and you're not willing to let yourself lose, but it's a choice, right? So, yeah, I mean, that dude essentially was willing to take a 3-round beating and still 15 seconds left looking for a way to win. I mean, that's mental focus. That's mental fortitude. It is impressive, and that's what you see out of these high-level fighters.
He had the experience. I only had 2 fights. I had 2 fights, and you go look at his record, like, every guy he fought was a big name, and they're all tough, and I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So, but probably the best learning experience I had as far as fighting goes.
Yeah.
Another one was Andrew Lip. I fought him twice, and I dropped him in the first round, and I once again kind of gassed out. So a lot of it's just like you can't let your nerves get to you,
right? Or the adrenaline, or the excitement.
When you hurt somebody, it's like you still got to be the same fighter you were. Obviously you're attacking, but you don't want to just go crazy,
Yeah.
So
well, it's a fine balance too, because then you hear Dana White talking, and you almost feel like you have to, right?
Right.
Go
yeah,
get that
I know.
finish.
And sometimes you won't, and that's what sucks. Like, the Contender Series, like, you definitely have to go on there and finish, So
is that something? I mean, I definitely want to hear your goals near the end, but I mean, is that something you think about as far as Contender Series, PFL? I mean, this $1 million tournament. Are those options on the table for you, or is the primary prize UFC just in general?
The goal is definitely the UFC.
Yeah.
I think PFL maybe after,
Okay.
way later. I think they're still building as a promotion, but who knows? I mean, if the opportunity's there, and there's a good
$1 million
good fights. Yeah, exactly. $1 million. Who doesn't want that? You
Well,
know?
and they get paid well along the way,
They do,
too.
yeah. They get paid throughout each fight.
Yeah.
So, honestly, my mind is open to either opportunity.
Yeah.
Do you have right now, I want to get to the UFC.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my manager's Jason House, Iridium
Cool.
Sports.
Yep.
He's blowing up, too. And
yeah.
just going to Anaheim and seeing how he handles things it's impressive. You know,
Nice.
He's not your ordinary manager.
Yeah. When did you first get a manager in your pro career? Or career at all?
I think it was like after I fought Art Petrosian.
Okay.
It was
an elevation guy.
Yeah, exactly. Real good friend of mine now too.
Cool.
It's
cool.
crazy how you become friends with these guys. But after that I got a manager and gone through a few of them, but that's the nature of the beast as well.
Yeah.
You got to do what's best for your career.
Right.
So I was just really impressed by how Jason runs things. So
Nice.
just kind of went with that.
Cool,
And,
cool. How long have you had him? How many fights have you had him for?
I just started with him, so this
Nice.
is my first fight.
You got
with
a main
him,
event fight.
Exactly,
Hey.
yeah, exactly. And
Cool.
yeah, so and Fury is a great card too. Chris Lopez, the matchmaker, we used to
Okay.
train together. He was at Factory X for a little while, and
Nice.
real good friend of mine too. So he's definitely hooking it up with the main event spot.
Nice,
So
yeah, man.
I was excited when he told me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, your record shows that you deserve this spot. I think it's a good spot for you. It's the right time in your career. Real quick, I do want to touch on, you mentioned that you went on a skid there for a minute. So you won your first 2 fights. Did you win your third fight?
The third fight was Ian Stonehouse. So yeah, that was the fight I lost. Yeah.
So you lost that fight.
and then I lost to Art right after that, and then Andrew Lip again. So like it was like.
So
Yeah.
you were 3-4 at that time?
Then I fought in Nebraska, won that fight, and then I went out in Utah and lost a split decision there.
Yeah.
And then that's when I became
Split decision, though, I mean.
Oh yeah, I go back and watch those fights. They're all entertaining fights. So whatever.
Why do you think you went on that 3-fight skid? Was that just coming up on the bad end of the fight card, or did you feel like there was something else going on?
I really used to think that. Like, oh man, these judges are awful. They're terrible. But I also had opportunities to finish in those fights, and I didn't. So I had to really own that and kind of accept the truth. Mark called me, and he's like, this is at the time where I was like, man, I don't even know if I want to fight anymore.
It's tough when you go through a skid like that.
Right, and it's you have to. I think the best thing you can do is be honest with yourself. You either got to for sure win those rounds, which I think is still not good enough sometimes, but you got to finish. So that's what we kind of talked about, and it was just a mental thing.
Yeah.
And I look back and just like I think about it, and I'm like, yeah, I was definitely not all there mentally the way I should have been. I wasn't thinking about. I was fighting to not lose, instead of fighting to win, and that's the key.
Well, it's good that you can go back and address that. A lot of people just kind of glaze over. Hey, it happened in the past. Let's just keep moving. But you addressed it, and you had awareness about it.
Right, and I think just throughout my experience, like I'm obviously not at the pinnacle of this game by any means, but I start observing other fighters and what they say to themselves, just like at the gym or wherever, and I try to read their body language and stuff, and it's totally like a mental game.
Oh yeah.
And the times I was fighting to not lose, it was totally me just obsessing about the outcome.
Yeah.
It's not like I didn't want to win, or whatever. Like I wanted to win too much almost. Like
it is a crazy mental space you can put yourself in, where you said, it's fighting not to lose, and it's almost not like letting your mind go all the way to the win. You're focused on fighting not to lose and worried about all these things that could go wrong instead of thinking it all the way through and saying, well, okay, what if that spot occurs? I can get out of that spot.
Right.
I can handle this situation.
And I think all that comes from is just like you care what people think. Yeah, it's an insecurity, and which is natural because like we're fighting. We want to get noticed. We want to spread our legacy and stuff like that. But that's gonna happen regardless. If you're stepping in the cage, people respect you already for doing that. So go out there and just chase the performance. Don't worry about the outcome and just go on there and be the better fighter you were last time. So my model's been one at a time ever since I was 3 and 4. I was like, because I think what really happened was like I was caring what people think, and I was so focused on getting to the UFC and all these things. I'm like, one at a time. It's gonna happen as long as I'm winning one at a time.
Right.
It's gonna happen eventually. You watch how these fighters rise.
Yeah. And it comes out of nowhere.
Right. Some of the best fighters went on that little losing streak, and I learned a lot from like Matt Brown. I trained with him for a while at Factory X. He was there for a little bit, and Anthony. Both those guys had a rough go.
Yes, and lengthy careers with
they actually,
more
lasted
than
longer.
10 losses.
they lasted much longer than a lot of guys, you know.
Right.
And it's funny because I'll look and I'll see a guy who's like, oh, he just signed with the UFC and he's 10-0, and I go look at, you know, his record, and some of his opponents are 49 like years old, and like, and they got like the record's 10-40. You know, it's like, I don't think my Tapology looks like that. You know,
no, you guys in general, I'd say at Factory X. I've talked about it with people in the past, but I mean, when you look at the records, you guys are fighting, you know, high level guys, killers. You're not taking easy fights.
Yep, all my opponents at welterweight, I think, have been in the top 10 of their wherever they're from. Or
cool.
So
yeah, it's a good experience.
Yeah.
It's nice. So if you can think back to the beginning of your career, you know, maybe once you realized, maybe after your first amateur fight, what were your goals at that time, or what was the overarching goal?
The ultimate goal obviously was to win my first fight, because you know when you tell your friends and your family that you're gonna fight, they're like, "The hell are you doing? Like this is nuts." And like it's not this little cliche story where it's like, "Oh, you can do this," and I'm so inspired. It's like, no, they're like, "This is dangerous, man. Like you're gonna get hurt." That's all you hear is nothing but negativity. You know. That's just because they love you. It's not that they want to see you fail. Like everyone has haters and all this stuff. It's a lot of times it's not that. They just don't want to see you get hurt. At least as far as fighting goes, you know. So I think just that alone, trying to prove that is where you start. But also like just the curiosity is what really drives you in that first fight, I think. Yeah. And I think maintaining that mindset, especially if you won your first fight. Because think about it, you're developing all these skills. Yeah. Still keep that mindset of like, I want to win this fight so bad and all this stuff. And but you're also not thinking, you know, because you know in your first fight you're just like, you don't know what to expect, and you're just kind of just going. But now that you have technique and you got that muscle memory, like just do the same thing. I guarantee you'll be much faster than like anticipation. That's a good point. Yeah.
So what are your goals now? Have they changed over time?
The goal is pretty much the same, one at a time, but also I think in this fight, if I were to change one thing going into it, just be free in there, you know? Just let go of the pressure. Right. Just go in there and just perform, have some fun. Because that's what we also forget, too, especially as a pro. I think more so, as an amateur, you know you're not getting paid, you know? Yeah. And you maybe some ticket sales or whatever, some sponsors, but as a pro, you put that money pressure on you, and just honestly, you're not going to make money, not a lot of money at least, as a upcoming pro until you get to the UFC and you start.
Do you have any sponsors for this fight?
I have Receptra, Denver Chiropractic, Jamie Atlas as well, my physical therapist, and my massage therapist, Kelsey Clemens. So a few other ones. I definitely need some more, but I kind of want, you know, my performance will sell itself. So, I agree. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So last thing, and then I'll let you get out of here after you sign that banner, but what, if you had to think back to the beginning of your career and something that might have been useful to you or something you picked up along the way, what would be one tip for young aspiring fighters or martial artists in general that you would give them?
Just fall in love with the training. I think there's fighters that hate to train and there's fighters that love to train. I think the ones that love to train just go further, you know, because there's going to be moments where you just hate the sport, whether you're, you know, things are going on in your life or, you know, you're not winning. And that to me was like the hardest part because I was going on that losing streak. And I was like, it's crazy how silent your phone gets and how easily people forget. Like when I was 3-4 and I got another fight, they're like, "Oh, you still fight?" Like some of my friends, like, still like you still brutal. They you know, and like some of them said they were gonna come and they didn't, and it's like but whatever, like I don't take offense to it, but it's like that's just the reality of it. That's what happens. And the sooner you accept that, like they're not bad people and they're not bad friends either, you know. I think people get hung up on, oh man, you didn't show up.
They have their own life going on.
They have their own life going on, and like it's like sometimes they may not want to see you in that state lose or whatever. So like it's just a natural thing that people do, but once you start winning again, they start showing up, and I think that's something to be appreciated too, because people like a comeback, you know. Right. So, I think you just gotta take it for what it is, you know, and it's okay, you know. Like I think that's an important part of your career, honestly. Like seeing that dark side of it.
I love it. I love it. Well, thanks, man. I'm excited for you. So September 28th. Fury Fighting Championships. You're the main event. 170-pound fight. Man, I appreciate you coming on.
Anytime.
Like hearing your journey, and I'm excited for your future.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. And thanks for watching. Check us out at theprizefightingbusiness.com. Follow us on Instagram at PrizeFightBiz. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Prize Fighting Business. And don't forget to like us on Facebook. And go follow Austin Osmosis Jones online.
Sir.
Thanks a lot.